Hi guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to find a substring in a cell and change the font of that, or change some part of that substring. So let's get started. Before I do that, remember to go to excelvbasequel.com. You could download all this code and all the workbooks and watch hours and hours of these videos. Okay, so let's go to a workbook, and here we go. Let's say we have this in a cell. We have some text, you know, here's some more text, just dummy text, and then we have these identifiers, these stars, or I don't know what you want to call them, but they're identifiers around another bit of text. And what we want to do is we want to change the font of this text, or we want to change the boldness, or the subscript, or anything like that. So we can go in this cell, and we can find this text, and we could do it by knowing what character does this show up, and at what character does this show up. So this might be like the 10th character in the string, and this might be the 20th character in the string. So in between there, we just make this bold or subscript or whatever we want. Or we can extract it if we want. So I'm going to show you how to write a subroutine that will extract text from another bit of text based on some qualifiers around it. And in our case, these qualifiers are these stars. I could easily make it dashes or whatever. Okay. So we'll use dashes actually, because sometimes in a file path you'll have something like this, and maybe in a file path you need to extract like the folder name or something. Okay, so let's write the macro. So the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to do it in Excel. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do equals find. So there's a function called find, and we're going to find this character, this forward slash, within this text. Okay, and if I just do that, press enter, it says 17. So 17 is, the 17th character of this string is this dash right here, or this forward slash. Okay, so we found that. Now let's find the next forward slash. So what we're going to do is just do another find. We're going to do find another forward slash within this text, starting at 17. Okay, and actually it should be 18, because I'm just going to put b1 plus 1. Okay, so we start at n here, and we look forward and say, where's the next forward slash? And it's at 26. Okay, so now we have the beginning index of the forward slash here, which is 17, and the beginning index and the index of this forward slash here, which is 26. So now all we got to do is we can extract that the text in between those two dashes by using the mid function. So we do mid text, we do start at 17 and end at let's see, 26 minus 17, and there we have New York. Now you'll notice that there's a forward slash on the front end, so all we have to do here is start at C1. Actually, we want to start at B1 plus 1, and we want to go to this minus 1. So this is the formula that will extract New York from the two forward slashes. Okay, now watch. If I change this and I write New York City, then New York City shows up here. And notice that the index of the second forward slash changed to 31. Okay, and it works, and it's interesting that it works, and it's pretty cool. So now we can extract stuff, but this is in Excel, right? So how do we do this in VBA? Well, what we're going to do is we're just going to use these functions, this find function and this other find function with the other parameter here, and the mid function. We're going to use those same exact functions in a VBA. And notice that this find function, it takes 3 parameters, but the last one's optional. So here, there's a parameter that is what is the text, so it's A1, but there's another parameter, this start number. You could leave it out. So in the first case, I left it out because I'm starting at 1, and it just defaults to that. In the second case, I'm able to specify the start number. So it's optional. You could put it in there, the start number, or not. So in the first one I don't, in the second one I do. Okay, so now let's build this in VBA and show you how to do this. Okay. All right. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to declare a string. I'm going to call it xString as string, and then xString. I'm just going to set it equal to cells one dot value. Okay, that's cool. Now let me also, I have to put the dim function here. Let me also put dim first index as integer, dim second index as integer, and now I could set these indexes, right? So first index is going to equal, and let me just copy this thing here. I'm just going to copy that same formula, and paste it in. Okay, so it equals this, right? But now, now we have to make a little bit of modifications to this. So in our case, it's not A1, it's actually xString, right? And actually, what we want to do, this find function, you need to qualify it by doing application dot let's see. Let me just go to this other line. Application dot worksheet functions. This is how you have to qualify it. Dot, and then here's the function. If you just press F, you'll get find. Okay, so here it is. I'm just going to cut this. This is how you do it. You do application dot worksheet function dot find. You just have to qualify this. So this is the same exact function in Excel, and you could get to it by using this application dot worksheet function. So in the application object, there's I believe this is another object, a worksheet function object, or it might be a method, and then there's this find function associated with this object. And now we could just have our index just like we did there, right? And all we have to do now is just copy this, move it down, and we'll get a second index. And I just want to remember what I did here. I did B1, so I did my first index plus 1. So let me go back to this, and I'm just going to do first index plus 1. Okay, and now I'm going to also just copy this formula here, and again, let me put that in there. I'm just going to declare dim. I'll call this extracted text as string. I'll copy this down here. Extracted text is going to equal, again, let me just put this application dot worksheet function dot mid. Let's see. Is there a mid in here? No, there isn't. So there is no mid. So we have to find a solution to this. This is a good error to encounter. Let's see. Is there a substring? There's no substring. Let's see how we could do this. Let's see. Let me think for a second here. I believe there is a mid function that is in VBA. So sorry for that little delay. I knew there was a mid somewhere. So you don't have to qualify the mid function. You can just write it like this. You don't need to qualify with this application worksheet. So it wasn't found attached to this worksheet function object. Before I do that, let me find what this worksheet function is. So let me go to this Object Explorer, and this is good practice to make sure you know what you're doing. Go to the Object Explorer and just search for worksheet function and search for it in the Excel. Actually, I'm just going to search and see where it's at in all libraries. So let's see. Worksheet function is a class. Okay, cool. So now we know that worksheet function is a class. That means that, let me go back to this. Application.worksheet function. This is a worksheet function. So this is a property, actually. Worksheet function is a property. And it's a member of the Excel.application class. So that's what it is. It's a property of the application class. That's what this is here. This mid, if we go to the Object Explorer, if I search for mid, there's a function mid in VBA strings. So that's what mid is. In case you're wondering, what is all this? How do you know whether to classify this or not? You go to that object browser and you could find everything. If you're confused about the object browser and the model, watch the video on it. Okay, so now we could just use this mid function the same way that we did in the workbook. So in the workbook, we did xstring, and then we did the start is going to be first index plus 1, and then it's going to be second index minus first index minus 1. So this is the same exact formula as what you see up here. Okay, so now let's just step through this and see that it works. So if I put a watch on this, I get the extracted text is New York City with some other text here, and certainly that is exactly what is between the first / and the second /. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We extracted this text from this string. Okay, and that's cool. So now we could do a little bit more. We can also make it bold or change stuff on it. And how do you do that? Well, use a let me walk you through it. Let me go here and I'll go to developer tab. I'll go to record macro, and this is how I would do it. Actually, I would go record a macro, and I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to highlight these letters. I'll go to the home tab and I'm just going to bold them. Okay, and there you could see these letters are now bold. Okay, so this is all the recorded macro that I need to move forward. So I'm going to go back to developer. I'm going to press stop recording. Now in my editor, I have another module here, and this is what was recorded by Excel. And you can see there's this big with statement, right? And basically what the with statement says is, you select an active cell, and with that active cell, look at the characters and start at number 1 and go to 11. And with the font, there's all these properties. Make the name of the font this, the font style that, the size, tons and ton of properties. So it does that for the characters between 1 and 11. So the first character up to the 11th character, they all have these properties. And then starting at character 12, you see here active cell characters starting at 12, going 3. Now this is where I bolded stuff. I changed the font style to bold. So this is what happened in the macro recorder, okay? And then again, you have another with statement that does the same thing for the characters from 15, which is where I left off bolding it. So 15 is S here, to length 27, and then it makes the font style regular. So the recorder has 3 with statements. It made 3 with statements, and here you could see this is the third one. The with statements, all I did was bold these 3 letters, but the recorder, it actually recorded more than we needed. It made a with statement for these characters 1 to 11, and then it made a with statement for these 3 characters, which I bolded, and it said make that font style bold. And then it made another with statement for all these characters from whatever that is, character 15 to 26 or whatever. So that's how the recorder did it, and it does too much. All we want is the part that bolds text between certain characters, between certain indexes. So all we need to do here is we can take one with statement, right? I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go over here, and I'm just going to paste it into our macro. And in our active cell, so I have to make sure this is the active cell. So let me first do cells 11.select. So just to make sure that it's the active cell. And then what is the index? Well, I want to do first index +1, and length, I'm going to do exactly what I have here, second index minus first index. Okay, and there's the length of it, right? So now I can change stuff here. So if I make this 20 and I make the font style bold, and I can even change this to something else. Let me change it to, let's see, what is a good one? Algerian, right? So now I have this with statement that changes these properties of the font. Remember, this with statement is saying with the active cell font, font is a property, but that has properties. It has all these properties: the name of the font style, everything, right? And I don't even need all this stuff. I mean, you don't even need any of this, so I can delete it. I mean, you could look into what are all these things, but actually I'll leave them, and you could play around with that. So let's walk through this now. Let me walk through this macro now. And here we go. We're selecting stuff, and now with the name, it's going to change it to Algerian. And right there you see automatically New York City with that extra test, because it's in between the 2 indexes that we specified, 17 and 41. And if we go up here, you're going to see, if I put a watch on this and I put a watch on this, you have 17 and 41. So we say with the active cell, the characters starting at 17 and the length going, second index minus first index minus 1. Make it Algerian, and now we're going to bold it. So if I step through again, there you go. Now it's bold, right? Okay. And if we go through again, we can make the font size real big. So we'll make it 20, and there you go. So what we're doing here, we're finding the indexes of the / here and the index of the / here, and you could do whatever you want with what's in between. You can change the font, you could make the coloring, or you could do anything you want because you're using this with statement and you have all these properties available. Okay. So that's what I wanted to show you here. Another property of this active cell that actually someone wrote in, and they were doing this a lot in their macro. They had a with statement, and they just did it over and over again. And the main reason they did it over and over again is because they had different indexes, right? So they were manually just going into every cell and changing what's in between. But you don't need to do that. For that person, if they're watching, what you were doing was you had these qualifiers around text, I believe, and you could just find those qualifiers like we do here, and then you can do whatever you want to what's in between them. Okay. And that person also, they had an issue where sometimes they had a formula, and they would have something like x2, right? But what they would want to do is they would want to make the 2 superscript. So they would want this to happen, where you format the cells and you do superscript. Okay, so look at, now we have x squared instead of x2, right? And that was pretty time consuming for them to do that. But you can do the same thing with what we just covered. So if you go in here and you could do the same thing. You could do equals find what text. Well, I want to find 2 in this cell, and it is the third. Now it's the second. There was an extra space. So you do the same thing. If you want to make this a superscript, you can do the same thing. You can write a subroutine that will find where is 2 at in the cell, and it'll make it a superscript. So we can do that if you want. It'll probably take 2 seconds to modify this. Let's see. All I'm going to do is take this first index. I'm just going to change it to find it x2, and I'm going to do 2, and then what I'm going to do is here's my with statement for that, which is between the forward slashes, but all I want for the 2 is to do this. I just want superscript to true, right? And I want find index 2 is where I start, and what is my length? Well, my length is just going to be 1. Okay, so now we have another with statement here, and if I go back here and I put a 2 in the active cell, which is the first one, so if I put a 2 here, right? Let me go in here. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just put a 2 there. And now I'll go back to the code, and if I just run it, well, look what happened. We have our k squared. Okay. Notice that though this went back to Calibri. So let me run that again, and let's see what happened there. Maybe by doing this with statement the first time. Let me put a breakpoint here, and we could investigate this. So let me run this again. It did not change the font to Algier. Let me just put another breakpoint here. Let me step through. Okay, it changed it to Algerian. Let me run it again. And okay, so we found a little trick here, a little bug maybe, or something that's happening, is that when I insert this new with statement, you notice that it makes the superscript true, but it sets the font back. Okay, so to get around that, I mean, this is what I would do to get around that. I mean, there might be other ways to get around that by maybe doing an array or something. I would just move the subscripting to true up here, and I would take it out over here, and let's see if that works. So now if we run it, let's run it again. Let's see. Changes it, changes it, changes it, changes it. Okay, so there's something going on here when you have two with statements using the active cell. Let's see. Let's see. So to get around this, there's a couple things you can do. You can maybe make a second function, and we could do something like this. This isn't the best way to do it, but you could do cells 1, 2 dot select just to get that off of the cell, and then take this over here and then reselect cells 1, 1. So let's see if this works. We're encountering a little bug here, but let's see if it works. With active cell character. Let me put a breakpoint here, and let me run this. Let me run this. So right here it makes it Algerian, but now something happens when it comes out of the with statement. So right here, theme font. Okay, so let me just comment out this bit of code here. So I comment that out, and let me just see if we can get it to work. So it goes Algiers right there. Okay, so this was the problem. I apologize for the delay, but we just found like a bug that in the real world I would have gone through the same thing. And the problem, it looks like, is that this dot theme font, XL theme font minor, whatever, when you set this to Algerian and then you go through and set this to XL theme font minor, it changes it back. So watch this. Here you can see it's Algerian, right? So let me uncomment this, and I'll show you what I mean. We're going to stop. We're going to run this. We're going to step through. It's still Algerian, right? But watch, now at the theme font, when I step through, it changes it back. Okay, so that's ridiculous. That's Microsoft Excel. I don't know. There's something wrong with this theme font property or something. I don't like that. It just took 5 minutes for me to figure that out. So anyways, I'm going to comment that out, and now when I run it, there, I get what I want. It's Algerian, it's bold, it's everything I want. And now I can go through and I could run that other with statement. So I don't need this stuff. So that's a little frustrating. To have that happen, especially on video. But I didn't know that. I didn't know what these properties are, and that's what I'm saying. Like when you're a VBA programmer, you just have to figure that stuff out. You got to investigate. You got to click through and notice how I did it. I just went to the step into and I stepped through everything, and I found out, okay, when I stepped through this line here, it screwed up this with Algerian and everything. So I'm just going to comment it out, and I'm just going to move on and continue with the code. Okay, so what do we do in this video? We found a bug. I hope you think that's helpful, because it is. But let's show you what we did. First, we have our text, and we put our text in between a forward slash and another forward slash. And in Excel, I showed you how you can extract stuff by doing these formulas. And then I showed you that in VBA you can do the exact same thing by using this application.worksheet function for the find. And for the mid, you don't need that. You just put mid, and you could do the same thing. And then I showed you that when you can extract it, we put it into the extracted text, and you can also find another index. In our case, we want to find where 2 is at. It's right here. And we want to do the same thing in this with statement down here, and we want to make it look like it's squared. So the person who wrote in, they can use that in sort of a more mathematical looking manner. So that's how I would find text within text. I would use if it has qualifiers around it, and that's how I would do the subscript thing. I would search for it using the find function. Now you could do it an entirely different way by looping through every character. You could create a loop, and you could go character by character, and you could use this mid function here, and you would create an index and say start at index I and go 1 character ahead, and you could just loop through every character, and you could try to find whatever you're looking for. So that's another way to search for stuff within a string. You could create a loop and just go character by character using that mid function. I might create a video on how to do that, but this way is much faster, and I think it's much easier, and you could see it how it's done in Excel with these functions. And to implement it, you just do the same thing in VBA. Okay, so that's it. I just wanted to show you how to do that, how to extract text and change properties of that text. And just a reminder, go to excelvbasequel.com, and you're going to see all these videos. And if you want to download that workbook, you can download it. And that's it. So if you have questions, feel free to email me. Thanks.